Most people spend their entire lives trapped inside a voice they never chose. A voice that keeps speaking from the moment they wake up until the moment they finally fall asleep, judging them, warning them, comparing them, scaring them, reminding them of old pain, creating fear about the future. And after listening to this endless mental noise for so many years, they begin believing the voice is who they are. They no longer know where the thinking ends and where their true self begins. That is why even peaceful moments no longer feel peaceful. The body may be resting, but the mind keeps running. The world may become quiet, but inside, the noise never stops. But ancient Buddhist wisdom discovered something most people never realize. The voice inside your head is not your true self, and the more you fight the mind, the more deeply trapped inside it you become. Tonight, you will discover why the mind never shuts up, why silence feels uncomfortable to most people, and the ancient path that slowly frees you from the endless noise inside your head. Because beneath all the overthinking, beneath all the fear, beneath all the mental exhaustion, there is still a silent part of you waiting to be heard. The mind never stops talking because silence begins, exposing what you've been avoiding. Most people say they want peace. They say they are tired of overthinking, tired of stress, tired of anxiety, tired of carrying so much noise inside their head every single day. But something very strange happens the moment life finally becomes quiet. The moment there is no conversation, no music, no scrolling, no distraction. The mind suddenly becomes louder. Have you ever noticed that? You finally lie down at night hoping to rest, and suddenly your mind begins replaying everything. Old memories return. Embarrassing moments appear again. Future fears begin speaking. Pain you ignored during the day suddenly rises to the surface, and before you even realize it, your body is lying in bed, but your mind is running through 10 different worlds at once. This is why so many people are physically exhausted, but mentally unable to rest, because silence does something the distracted mind fears deeply. Silence reveals. It reveals the emotions you pushed away for years, the sadness you kept hiding behind busyness, the loneliness you covered with constant entertainment, the fear you buried underneath endless mental noise. Most people are not addicted to distraction because they enjoy it. They are addicted to distraction because they are afraid of what they may feel without it. The mind understands this very deeply, and because of this, it keeps producing thought after thought constantly. One fear leads to another. One memory pulls in another memory. One worry creates 10 more worries. The mind keeps moving because movement helps it avoid stillness. Stillness is dangerous to the restless mind because stillness begins exposing truth. This is why your mind often becomes loudest late at night. During the day, life distracts you. People are talking, phones are ringing, tasks are happening, noise is everywhere. But at night, everything slows down. And when the world finally becomes quiet, the mind suddenly realizes there is nowhere left to escape. So instead of resting peacefully, it creates more noise, more thinking, more imagining, more replaying, more emotional chaos. Not because the mind wants peace, but because part of the mind is terrified of silence. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood something very powerful about human suffering. The problem is not silence itself. The problem is what silence begins uncovering inside us. Most people spend their entire lives running from themselves without even realizing it. They stay constantly busy because slowing down feels uncomfortable. They keep searching for stimulation because stillness feels unfamiliar. But the uncomfortable feeling is not punishment. It is not weakness, and it is not something to fear. Very often, it is the doorway to healing. Because the moment you stop escaping yourself, you finally begin seeing yourself clearly. For the first time, you begin noticing how exhausted your mind truly is. You begin noticing how many thoughts are repeating every single day. You begin noticing how much suffering comes not from life itself, but from the constant mental noise happening inside you. And slowly, something important begins changing. You stop trying to run from silence. You stop needing constant distraction every second. You begin sitting quietly for a few moments without immediately reaching for noise. And at first, this feels uncomfortable, almost like withdrawal, because the mind has spent years depending on stimulation to avoid facing itself. But if you stay there gently, without fighting, without forcing, without running away, something beautiful slowly begins happening. The mental noise starts losing some of its power. Your breathing becomes calmer. Your body softens. Your thoughts slow down slightly. And underneath all the noise, you begin sensing something that was always there, a quiet presence, a deeper stillness, a part of yourself untouched by all the chaos in your mind. This is why ancient Buddhist teachings placed so much importance on silence and awareness. Not because silence magically removes all problems overnight, but because silence allows you to finally see the difference between your true self and the endless noise created by the restless mind. Most people never discover this because they never stay still long enough. The moment discomfort appears, they escape again, back into noise, back into distraction, back into endless mental movement. But peace only begins appearing when running finally stops. And the beautiful truth is, the silence you have been avoiding may actually become the place where your mind finally begins healing. Thoughts control you most the moment you mistake them for truth. A single thought can completely change the way you feel within seconds. Nothing outside you may have changed at all. Yet suddenly your mood becomes heavy. Your energy drops. Your chest tightens. Your peace disappears. Why? Because the mind said something, and you instantly believed it. The mind says, "You are not good enough," and suddenly you begin doubting yourself. The mind says, "They probably do not care about you anymore," and your heart immediately becomes anxious. The mind says, "You are falling behind in life," and now pressure begins filling your body. The mind says, "Something bad is going to happen." And even though nothing dangerous is actually happening in this moment, your nervous system reacts as if the danger is already real. This is how thoughts quietly control human life every single day. Not because every thought is true, but because most people never stop long enough to question the voice inside their head. They automatically believe whatever appears in the mind. If a thought repeats itself long enough, they begin accepting it as reality. And over time, this becomes extremely dangerous, because the mind can repeat lies just as easily as truth. It can repeat fear. It can repeat insecurity. It can repeat old pain. It can repeat stories created from past wounds. And if you never become aware of this, you slowly begin building your entire emotional life around thoughts that may not even be true. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood something deeply important thousands of years ago. A thought is not necessarily reality. A thought is simply a mental event appearing inside awareness. Nothing more. Thoughts come and go endlessly throughout the day. Some thoughts are fearful, some are angry, some are jealous, some are sad, some are completely meaningless. Many thoughts are only old mental habits repeating themselves automatically. But because people identify with every thought, they become emotionally controlled by the mind constantly. This is why one small thought can ruin an entire day. You may wake up peaceful, but then the mind reminds you of something painful, and suddenly your entire emotional state changes. Not because reality changed, but because attention became trapped inside one thought. The mind learns this pattern very quickly. It understands that emotional thoughts capture your attention fastest. Fear pulls attention quickly. Pain pulls attention quickly. Negative thinking pulls attention quickly, and attention is power. Whatever receives your attention repeatedly becomes stronger inside you. This is why overthinking grows louder the more you feed it. Every time you replay painful thoughts for hours, the mind learns. This is important. Keep repeating it. Every time you obsess over fear, the mind learns. Continue creating more fear. Every time you immediately believe negative thoughts, the mind becomes more powerful over your emotional state. And after years of this, many people no longer know the difference between reality and mental noise. They live inside thought so deeply that they rarely experience life directly anymore. They do not see the world clearly. They see the world through fear, through insecurity, through overthinking, through imagined stories created by the mind. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation, yet suffer completely differently. One mind creates peace, the other creates fear. The outside situation may be identical, but the inner interpretation changes everything. Ancient Buddhist teachings constantly invited people to observe the mind carefully because awareness weakens unconscious thinking. The moment you begin watching thoughts, instead of instantly obeying them, something beautiful begins happening inside you. A small space appears. For the first time, you begin realizing, I can notice this thought without becoming trapped inside it. That realization is life-changing, because now you are no longer fully controlled by every mental voice that appears. You begin seeing thoughts more clearly. You notice how quickly the mind creates stories. You notice how often fear exaggerates reality. You notice how many thoughts repeat automatically every single day. And slowly, the mind loses some of its power over you, not because thoughts completely disappear, but because awareness is finally awake. You stop treating every thought like an emergency. You stop reacting to every fear immediately. You stop believing that every negative idea deserves your complete emotional attention. And this changes your inner world deeply, because peace was never about having a perfectly silent mind. That is impossible. Even peaceful people still experience thoughts. The difference is, they no longer worship every thought that appears. They no longer become dragged into every mental storm. They understand something most people never realize. Just because a thought appears does not mean it deserves belief. Clouds move through the sky constantly, but the sky itself remains untouched. In the same way, thoughts move through awareness constantly, but awareness itself remains still beneath them. And the more you quietly observe the mind without immediately becoming lost inside it, the more freedom begins growing inside you. Slowly, gently, naturally. Because true peace does not come from forcing thoughts to disappear. True peace begins the moment you stop giving every thought the power to define your reality. The mind creates endless problems because inner restlessness feeds on mental noise. Have you ever noticed how the mind almost never stays satisfied for long? Even when life becomes calm, the mind still searches for something to worry about. If one problem disappears, another one quickly takes its place. You finally finish one stressful situation, and suddenly the mind begins focusing on something new, a message someone did not reply to, a small mistake you made days ago, something awkward you said years earlier, a future situation that has not even happened yet. The mind keeps searching endlessly, and after some time, you begin realizing something very important. The mind is not always reacting to problems. Very often, the mind is creating them. This is why some people can have peaceful lives externally, yet still feel mentally exhausted every single day. Nothing terrible may actually be happening around them, but inside their head, there is constant tension, constant overthinking, constant fear, constant emotional noise. The mind keeps producing problems because inner restlessness feeds on mental movement. Stillness feels unfamiliar to the restless mind. Silence feels uncomfortable to it. Peace almost feels suspicious. So the mind creates activity to avoid stillness. It replays old memories. It imagines future disasters. It analyzes tiny details repeatedly. It creates arguments that never happened. It worries about situations completely outside your control. And slowly, this becomes a habit. Many people become so used to mental noise that they no longer know how to exist without it. If life becomes peaceful for even a short moment, the mind quickly creates another issue to focus on. This is why some people cannot even enjoy happiness fully. Even during beautiful moments, part of the mind is already worrying about losing them. Even during rest, the mind searches for danger. Even during silence, the mind creates noise. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood that the restless mind survives through constant psychological movement. The mind believes endless thinking creates safety. It believes overanalyzing prevents pain. It believes worrying prepares you for the future. But in reality, most of this mental activity only drains your peace slowly, because many of the problems created by the mind never actually happen, and yet the body still suffers as if they are real. This is why overthinking becomes so exhausting. The body cannot always tell the difference between imagined fear and actual danger. So every anxious thought creates tension inside you. Your chest tightens, your breathing changes, your nervous system becomes overwhelmed. And after years of this, many people live in a constant state of hidden exhaustion without understanding why. Their body is tired because the mind never truly rests. The mind keeps moving because deep inside, it is afraid of stillness. Stillness means there is nothing left to chase mentally. No drama, no future fantasy, no emotional chaos, no constant stimulation. Just this moment. And to the restless mind that can feel deeply uncomfortable at first. This is why some people become addicted to problems without realizing it. Problems give the mind something to hold on to, something to analyze, something to control, something to fear. Without problems, the mind suddenly has to face itself, and many people have spent their whole lives avoiding that moment. But ancient Buddhist teachings pointed toward a powerful truth. Peace does not come when the mind finally solves every problem, because the mind will always create another one. Real peace begins when you stop believing every mental problem deserves your complete attention. This changes everything, because now, instead of immediately becoming trapped inside every thought, you begin observing the mind more carefully. You begin noticing how often it exaggerates, how often it predicts disaster, how often it creates unnecessary suffering, and slowly, you stop feeding every mental storm with fear. You begin understanding that not every thought needs analysis, not every fear needs attention, not every emotion needs to become your identity. Sometimes the mind is simply restless, sometimes the noise means nothing. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop chasing every thought the moment it appears. This is where inner peace slowly begins growing. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you stop allowing the restless mind to turn every moment into another psychological battle. You begin breathing more deeply again. You begin experiencing simple moments more fully. A quiet morning no longer feels empty. Silence no longer feels dangerous. Stillness no longer feels unbearable. And little by little, the mind loses its addiction to constant noise. Because deep down, what you truly needed was never more thinking. What you truly needed was relief from the endless mental movement that had been exhausting your soul for years. The harder you fight the mind, the deeper you become trapped inside it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they must fight their mind in order to find peace. They fight their thoughts. They fight their emotions. They fight their anxiety. They fight their fear. They fight every uncomfortable feeling that appears inside them. And after years of struggling, they become exhausted. Not because they are weak, but because they have been fighting a battle that cannot be won through force. Have you ever noticed what happens when you desperately try not to think about something? The mind immediately becomes even louder. You tell yourself, "I need to stop overthinking," but now you are thinking even more. You tell yourself, "I should not feel anxious," and suddenly the anxiety becomes stronger. You try to force yourself to feel calm, but inside, frustration keeps growing. This is how the mind traps people. The more aggressively you fight mental noise, the more attention you give it. And attention is what keeps the mind alive. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood something deeply important that most people never realize. The mind feeds on resistance. The more emotional energy you throw against thoughts, the more power those thoughts receive. It becomes like trying to calm water by punching it. The harder you strike, the more disturbed the surface becomes. Many people spend their entire lives trapped in this painful cycle. They become angry at themselves for overthinking, ashamed of their emotions, frustrated with their fears, disappointed in their sadness, and slowly, they turn their own inner world into a battlefield. But peace never grows inside constant inner war. The truth is, the mind does not become quiet through hatred. It becomes quiet through understanding. This is why ancient Buddhist teachings never focused on violently controlling thoughts. Instead, they taught observation, gentle awareness, the ability to sit with the mind without becoming consumed by every thought appearing inside it. At first, this feels strange, because most people are used to reacting immediately to every mental movement. A fearful thought appears, and they panic. A painful memory appears, and they resist it. An uncomfortable emotion appears, and they try to push it away instantly. But the more you resist thoughts emotionally, the more deeply entangled you become inside them. The mind keeps pulling you back into struggle, because struggle keeps the mental noise active. This is why some people spend years trying to fix themselves, yet still feel exhausted internally. They are trying to force peace instead of allowing peace. But true peace cannot be forced. Peace begins appearing naturally the moment fighting starts ending. Imagine sitting beside a muddy lake. If you constantly stir the water, it remains cloudy. But if you stop disturbing it, the water slowly becomes clear on its own. The human mind works in the same way. Constant resistance keeps the mind emotionally disturbed. But awareness without resistance allows the inner storm to slowly settle naturally. This does not mean thoughts disappear forever. Thoughts will always come and go. Fear may still appear sometimes. Sadness may still appear sometimes. Painful memories may still return sometimes. But something important changes. You stop becoming completely trapped inside them. Instead of drowning in every thought, you begin watching thoughts pass through awareness. Like clouds moving across the sky does not fight the clouds. It allows them to come and go naturally. And because it does not resist them, it remains untouched beneath them. In the same way, your deeper awareness remains untouched beneath the movement of the mind. But most people never discover this because they are too busy fighting every thought that appears. They believe every uncomfortable emotion is a problem that must immediately be removed. Yet sometimes, the suffering is not coming from the thought itself. The suffering is coming from the resistance against it. A fearful thought appears for a few seconds, but resistance keeps it alive for hours. An uncomfortable emotion rises briefly, but fighting it emotionally keeps it trapped inside the body. This is why acceptance can feel so powerful. Not because acceptance means giving up, but because acceptance stops feeding unnecessary inner conflict. The moment you stop arguing with reality, a different kind of peace begins entering your life. You begin breathing more naturally again. Your body softens. Your nervous system calms down. Your mind slowly loses its desperate intensity. And over time, you begin understanding something beautiful. You do not need to control every thought in order to live peacefully. You do not need a perfect mind to experience calmness. You only need awareness strong enough to stop becoming lost inside every mental storm. This realization changes everything, because now, instead of spending your life fighting your own mind, you begin relating to it differently, with patience, with understanding, with quiet observation, and slowly, the noise starts losing its grip on you, not because you defeated the mind through force, but because you finally stopped feeding the war happening inside yourself. This is the ancient wisdom many people spend their whole lives searching for. The mind becomes loud through struggle, but silence begins returning. The moment struggle quietly ends. The mind escapes into the past and future, so you never fully enter the present. Most people are physically living in the present moment, but mentally, they are somewhere else entirely. Their body may be sitting in a quiet room, but their mind is replaying something that happened years ago, or worrying about something that may happen tomorrow, or imagining conversations that have not even happened yet, or creating fear about situations completely outside their control. And because of this, they rarely experience life as it truly is. They experience life through the noise of memory and fear. Have you ever noticed how the mind constantly moves through time? One moment it drags you into the past. It reminds you of mistakes, embarrassing moments, painful memories, people who hurt you, things you wish you had done differently. The mind keeps replaying old experiences again and again, as if reliving them enough times will somehow change what already happened. Then, suddenly, the mind jumps into the future. What if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they leave? What if life becomes harder? What if I never become enough? And before you realize it, your mind has completely abandoned the present moment once again. This is how people quietly lose their peace. Not because this exact moment is always painful, but because the mind keeps escaping into imagined worlds filled with regret and fear. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood something very deep about human suffering. Most suffering is not created by the present moment itself. Most suffering is created by mental attachment to the past and fear of the future. The past lives inside memory. The future lives inside imagination. But the mind becomes so addicted to these mental worlds that people stop truly living here and now. This is why many people miss the beauty of their own life while it is happening. A peaceful morning arrives, but the mind is somewhere else. A loved one sits beside them, but the mind is replaying old pain. The sun shines, the wind moves gently. Life is quietly happening around them, but mentally they are trapped inside fear and thought. And the sad part is, most people do not even notice this is happening. They become so identified with mental time travel that constant overthinking starts feeling normal. The mind keeps escaping because the present moment weakens its control. In the present, many mental stories suddenly lose their power. When you fully enter this moment, you often realize something surprising. Right now, in this exact breath, you are usually safer than your mind keeps pretending. But the mind survives through psychological movement. It keeps pulling you backward and forward because still presence begins quieting the noise. This is why silence and presence can feel uncomfortable at first, because when the mind can no longer escape into the past or future, it has to face what exists now. And many people have spent their entire lives avoiding that experience. Ancient Buddhist teachings constantly guided people back to the present moment, because the present is where peace quietly exists, not in yesterday, not in tomorrow, but here, in this breath, in this moment, in this simple experience of being alive. The present moment is much quieter than the mind. The mind screams, the present whispers, the mind rushes, the present remains still. The mind creates endless stories. The present simply exists peacefully on its own. This is why people often feel calm near nature without fully understanding why. When you watch rain falling, or sit near the ocean, or listen to wind moving through trees, for a brief moment, the mind slows down. Attention returns to what is real instead of what is imagined. And suddenly, the nervous system softens, breathing becomes deeper, the body relaxes, inner pressure decreases, not because every life problem disappeared, but because awareness finally returned to the present moment instead of wandering endlessly through mental noise. The mind fears the present because the present interrupts illusion. In the present moment, there is no imaginary future disaster happening yet. In the present moment, many fears only exist as thoughts. But the mind constantly tries pulling attention away from this truth. It says, keep worrying, keep replaying, keep imagining, keep preparing for danger. And slowly, people become trapped inside a future that never arrives. They carry tomorrow's fear inside today's body. They carry old pain into new moments. And after years of this, their nervous system forgets what true rest feels like. But something beautiful begins happening. When you start returning attention gently back to the present, you begin noticing life again. The warmth of sunlight, the sound of breathing, the feeling of walking slowly, the quietness hidden inside ordinary moments. You stop rushing through life mentally. You stop living completely inside memory and fear. And little by little, the mind loses some of its control over you. Because the present moment has a healing power the restless mind can never fully understand. The present moment does not demand perfection. It only asks you to arrive fully, to stop mentally running for a few moments, to stop carrying 10 imagined futures at once, to stop reliving old pain endlessly and simply be here. This moment may not be perfect, but it is real, and many people spend their whole lives trapped inside thought, without ever truly experiencing the quiet beauty of what is already here in front of them. This is why ancient Buddhist wisdom kept returning to one simple truth again and again. Peace is not found by escaping life. Peace begins the moment you finally stop escaping the present moment itself. Constant noise and stimulation quietly train the mind to lose peace. The modern world is filled with noise almost every second of the day. From the moment most people wake up, their attention is already being pulled away from themselves. The phone lights up, messages appear, videos begin playing, music starts filling the room, notifications arrive one after another, and before the mind even has a chance to breathe peacefully, it is already overwhelmed with stimulation. This has become so normal that many people no longer realize how deeply exhausted their mind truly is. There is always something demanding attention, something to watch, something to check, something to react to, something to consume. Even moments that used to be quiet are now constantly interrupted. People cannot sit in silence for long anymore. If they wait in line, they reach for the phone. If they eat alone, they search for distraction. If life becomes quiet for even a few minutes, the mind immediately looks for stimulation again. And slowly, the nervous system forgets how to rest naturally. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood something powerful long before the modern world existed. Whatever constantly captures your attention slowly shapes your inner state, and constant stimulation trains the mind to become restless. The mind becomes addicted to movement, fast information, fast entertainment, fast emotional reactions, endless mental activity. Over time, stillness begins feeling uncomfortable. Silence feels strange. Peace feels unfamiliar. Simple moments start feeling empty. This is why many people say they want inner peace, but become uncomfortable the moment real silence appears. Because the mind has been trained to depend on constant stimulation just to avoid facing itself. The modern world does not simply distract the mind, it overstimulates it. And an overstimulated mind cannot hear peace clearly. Imagine trying to see your reflection in water that is constantly shaking. The reflection becomes unclear. In the same way, a constantly overstimulated mind loses clarity. Thoughts become louder, attention becomes weaker, anxiety grows more easily, overthinking becomes stronger, and slowly, people begin losing connection with themselves. This is why so many people feel mentally exhausted even after spending hours relaxing. Because endless stimulation is not true rest. Scrolling for hours is not peace. Constant entertainment is not peace. Continuous distraction is not peace. Very often, it is only another way of escaping inner silence. And the tragedy is, many people no longer know how to simply sit with themselves quietly. The moment silence appears, they feel restless, not because silence is harmful, but because the mind has become dependent on noise. Ancient Buddhist teachings valued simplicity for a very deep reason. Not because simple living is old-fashioned, but because silence allows the mind to slow down enough to heal. When the noise decreases, something beautiful begins happening inside you. At first, you notice how restless the mind truly is. You notice how quickly attention jumps from one thing to another. You notice how uncomfortable stillness has become. And this realization can feel shocking, because many people spend years distracting themselves without ever realizing how noisy their inner world has become. But if you stay with the silence gently, without rushing back into stimulation immediately, the mind slowly begins settling. Your breathing becomes calmer, your body softens, your thoughts lose some of their intensity, and little by little, you begin reconnecting with parts of life that overstimulation quietly stole from you. You begin noticing the beauty of ordinary moments again, the sound of rain outside your window, the feeling of drinking tea slowly, the quiet peace of walking without rushing, the comfort of sitting still without needing constant entertainment. Simple things begin feeling alive again. This is because peace does not usually arrive through more stimulation. Peace arrives when unnecessary noise finally begins leaving the mind, and something very important starts changing inside you. You stop needing distraction every second. You stop fearing silence. You stop reaching for noise automatically every time discomfort appears. Instead, you begin creating space inside yourself. Space to breathe, space to feel, space to think clearly, space to simply exist without constant mental pressure. And in that space, the mind slowly remembers something it had forgotten for a very long time: how to be still, how to rest, how to exist peacefully without always chasing another source of stimulation. The truth is, the human mind was never designed to carry endless noise every waking moment. It was designed to experience life deeply, to pause sometimes, to breathe slowly, to feel silence without fear. But modern life trains people to keep running mentally every second. And after years of this, many people become strangers to their own inner peace. This is why silence can feel so healing once you stop resisting it. Because beneath all the stimulation, beneath all the noise, beneath all the endless distractions, there is still a quiet part of you waiting patiently underneath it all. A part of you that does not need constant entertainment to feel alive. A part of you that still remembers what peace feels like. And the moment you stop feeding the mind endless noise every second, that quiet part slowly begins returning again. You are not the voice in your head. You are the silent awareness behind it. There is one realization that can completely change the way you experience your entire life. A realization so simple, yet so deep, that once you truly see it, the mind slowly begins losing its power over you. The voice inside your head is not who you are. Most people spend their entire lives believing every thought that appears in the mind belongs to their true self. So when the mind becomes negative, they believe they are negative. When the mind becomes fearful, they believe they are broken. When the mind becomes anxious, they believe anxiety is their identity. But ancient Buddhist wisdom pointed towards something very different. The thoughts appearing inside your mind are not your true self. They are movements happening inside awareness, nothing more. This is difficult for many people to understand at first, because they have been identified with the voice in their head for so long. From childhood, the mind has been speaking constantly, commenting, judging, comparing, fearing, remembering, imagining, and because the voice never stops, People begin believing, "This is me." But if the voice inside your head was truly who you are, then who is noticing the voice? Who is aware of the thinking? Who is quietly observing the fear, the sadness, the overthinking, the mental noise? There is something deeper than thought itself, something silent, something aware, something that has been watching your entire life quietly from behind the mind. Even right now, as thoughts move through your head, there is a deeper awareness noticing them. That awareness is not panicking, it is not rushing, it is not screaming, it is simply watching. This is why there are moments in life when you suddenly feel deep peace for no obvious reason. Moments where the mental noise briefly disappears, perhaps while watching the ocean, listening to rain, sitting under the night sky, holding someone you love, or simply breathing quietly alone. For a few moments, the voice in the head becomes softer, and suddenly you feel present again. Still, calm, alive. That feeling is important, because in those moments, you are no longer completely identified with the mind. You are experiencing the silent awareness underneath it. Most people think peace comes from changing every external situation perfectly, but many times, peace appears the moment identification with the mind weakens. The mind may still produce thoughts, but you stop becoming trapped inside every single one. You begin seeing thoughts more like weather passing through the sky. Some thoughts are dark, some are emotional, some are fearful. But just like clouds, they eventually pass, and beneath all of them, the sky remains untouched. In the same way, your deeper awareness remains untouched beneath the movement of the mind. This changes the way you experience suffering, because now, instead of immediately becoming every thought, you begin observing thoughts. You notice, the mind is creating fear right now. The mind is replaying pain again. The mind is imagining problems again. And strangely, the moment awareness notices the mind clearly, the mind begins losing some of its control. Not because thoughts completely disappear, but because you are no longer fully hypnotized by them. This is why awareness is so powerful. Awareness creates space. Before awareness, thoughts automatically controlled your emotions. A fearful thought appeared, and immediately your entire body reacted. A painful memory appeared, and instantly you became lost inside it. But awareness interrupts this unconscious pattern. Awareness allows you to pause, to breathe, to see the thought clearly before becoming consumed by it. And slowly, this changes your entire inner world. You stop reacting to every thought like it is absolute truth. You stop obeying every emotion instantly. You stop letting the voice in your head define your worth every single day. Instead, you begin resting more deeply inside awareness itself. This does not mean life suddenly becomes perfect. Thoughts will still appear. Some days will still feel heavy. Some emotions will still hurt. Some fears will still rise unexpectedly. But something inside you becomes more stable. Because now you understand, I am not every thought that appears in my mind. That realization brings a kind of freedom many people spend their whole lives searching for. The voice in the head may continue speaking, but you no longer have to follow it everywhere it goes. You no longer have to believe every story it creates. You no longer have to drown inside every mental storm. Instead, you begin sitting quietly behind the noise, watching, breathing, aware, and over time, you begin discovering that beneath all the overthinking, beneath all the fear, beneath all the emotional chaos, there has always been a peaceful part of you, untouched by it all. A silent awareness that was never broken, a quiet presence that existed before every fearful thought and will remain long after those thoughts disappear. This is why ancient Buddhist wisdom placed such deep importance on awareness, because awareness reconnects you with the part of yourself the noisy mind can never fully reach. The mind is loud, the mind is restless, the mind constantly changes, but awareness remains still beneath it all. And the moment you stop confusing yourself with the voice in your head, the journey back to inner peace truly begins. True inner silence begins the moment you stop feeding every thought with attention. Most people believe the mind becomes peaceful when thoughts finally disappear. But ancient Buddhist wisdom understood something much deeper. Peace does not come because the mind suddenly becomes completely silent. Peace begins the moment you stop feeding every thought with your full attention. This changes everything, because the mind produces thoughts constantly. That is what the mind does. It remembers, it imagines, it worries, it judges, it compares, it creates stories endlessly. Thoughts will continue appearing just like clouds continue moving across the sky. But suffering grows the moment you grab every thought and emotionally follow it. One fearful thought appears, and suddenly you spend the next 3 hours trapped inside anxiety. One painful memory returns, and now your entire mood becomes heavy. One small insecurity enters the mind, and suddenly you begin questioning your worth. This is how mental noise becomes powerful. Not because every thought is important, but because attention keeps feeding the thoughts over and over again. Attention is like energy. Whatever you continuously feed with attention grows stronger inside you. If you constantly feed fear, fear becomes louder. If you constantly feed overthinking, overthinking becomes stronger. If you constantly feed mental drama, the mind becomes addicted to emotional chaos. And after years of this, many people feel imprisoned inside their own thinking. But something beautiful begins changing the moment awareness finally wakes up. You begin noticing thoughts without immediately chasing them. A fearful thought appears, but now you pause. Instead of instantly drowning inside it, you simply notice it. You breathe. You watch it carefully. And for the first time, you realize something powerful. Not every thought deserves your attention. This realization is life-changing. Because most mental suffering comes from unconscious attachment to thought. The mind says something fearful, and instantly attention follows. The mind creates a painful story, and attention immediately becomes trapped inside it. But awareness slowly breaks this habit. You begin understanding that just because a thought appears does not mean you must follow it. You can let thoughts pass. You can observe them without feeding them emotionally. At first, this feels difficult because the mind has spent years training you to react automatically. It wants your attention constantly. It wants you replaying the past, worrying about the future, judging yourself, comparing yourself, creating problems, because attention keeps the mind active. But the moment attention stops feeding every thought, the mind slowly begins losing momentum. This is why silence cannot be forced. Silence appears naturally when mental feeding decreases. Imagine a fire slowly dying because no one continues adding wood to it. In the same way, the mind slowly quiets when thoughts stop receiving endless emotional energy. This does not happen overnight. The mind may still become noisy sometimes. Old fears may still return. Painful memories may still appear. Anxiety may still rise unexpectedly. But now, something inside you has changed. You no longer become lost inside every mental storm immediately. You begin creating space between awareness and thought, and inside that space, peace quietly begins growing. Little by little, the mind becomes less heavy, the nervous system softens. You stop feeling emotionally pulled in every direction all day long. Simple moments begin feeling peaceful again. You sit quietly, without needing constant distraction. You walk slowly, without rushing mentally. You breathe without feeling trapped inside endless pressure. And for the first time in a long time, your inner world begins feeling lighter. Not because life became perfect, but because you stopped feeding unnecessary suffering every second through unconscious attention. Ancient Buddhist teachings understood something very powerful. The mind becomes loud when every thought is treated like truth. But the mind becomes quieter when awareness learns to observe without attachment. This is why inner silence feels so healing. Because silence is not the absence of life. It is the absence of constant mental struggle. It is what remains when the mind no longer controls your full attention every moment. And slowly, you begin discovering that peace was never missing from your life. It was only buried beneath years of overthinking, fear, distraction, and mental noise. The silence was always there underneath it all, waiting patiently, hidden beneath the endless movement of the restless mind. This is why true peace feels less like creating something new and more like returning to something ancient inside yourself, a calmness that existed before the noise, a stillness deeper than thought, a quiet presence untouched by fear, And the more you stop feeding every passing thought with endless attention, the more that inner silence slowly begins returning again, not through force, not through control, but naturally, like the surface of a lake becoming still again after the wind finally stops blowing. And maybe tonight, for the first time in a very long time, you finally understand that the problem was never that your mind was broken. The problem was that you spent years believing every thought deserved your fear, your attention, your energy. You spent so much time fighting the noise that you forgot there was already a quiet place inside you underneath it all, a place untouched by overthinking, untouched by fear, untouched by the endless pressure inside the mind. And no matter how loud life became, that quiet part of you never disappeared. It was only buried beneath noise, beneath distraction, beneath emotional exhaustion, beneath years of unconscious thinking. But tonight, perhaps something inside you has started waking up again. Perhaps for the first time, you are beginning to see the mind clearly, instead of becoming trapped inside it. And that awareness changes everything, because healing does not begin the moment the mind becomes perfectly silent. Healing begins the moment you stop losing yourself inside every thought that appears. So tonight, before you sleep, put the phone away for a few quiet minutes. Sit with yourself gently. Do not fight the mind. Do not force silence. Do not try to become perfect. Just breathe slowly and notice that beneath all the mental movement, there is already a stillness quietly waiting for you, a peaceful awareness that has been with you your entire life. The noise may continue sometimes. Some days will still feel heavy, but now you know something most people never realize. You are not the chaos inside your head. You are the silent presence watching it. And the moment you remember that, the journey back to inner peace has already begun. If this message reached something deep inside you, take a quiet moment tonight and reflect on which lesson stayed with your heart the most. And if you are walking this journey toward inner peace and awareness, subscribe to the channel and continue walking with us. There are still many truths the restless mind has never allowed you to fully see. Until next time, slow down, breathe gently, and remember, not every thought deserves your attention.